Hi there. Thanks for joining me today for another quick and easy watercolor painting. Today, I'm going to be looking at this little rock outcropping, and I'm going to do it in some line and wash, I thought. So we're going to just, sort of very impressionistically put some lines on there for these rocks, and, double them up if you want to, or add some, uh, you know, very very quick lines on there. We're going to put a couple of trees on here. We're going to put a tree here. And again, I'm going to double up some of these lines. Just like that. Not too much more than that. That's probably pretty good. And we're going to build, so this is going to be some water, and we're going to have a little bit of foreground across here. All right, so what I have here is my 3/4 inch brush. This is Sharpie Pen. I guess I should show that to you, Sharpie Pen. And it's pretty water solid, watertight, I guess I should say. It doesn't really, you can see I'm going across that ink that I just put on there, and there's very little bleeding. And actually, if you let it sit for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, it wouldn't bleed at all. But I'm kind of just being a little bit rammy here for YouTube video. And I'm going to put a couple of blue streaks on here for my sky. And that in that water is just going to bleed off to wherever it is that it wants to bleed off to. Might put a little bit of blue across here for the foreground for this, I shouldn't say the foreground, for where that water is going to be. Not too much more than that, okay? And I'm going to rinse this off pretty good. I'm going to pick up a little bit of Payne's gray here. I'm going to put some Payne's gray just across there like that. I'm going to pick some up right out of the pan a little bit more intensely, okay? Now, we have to paint these rocks across here, so I'm going to switch brushes, and I'm going to use this, which is 1/4 inch flat. You can use whatever it is that you have, but I just want to put this on here. You want to get some of these going in different directions. Remember, it's rocks, so okay, like that. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the pigment and, put it in slightly different directions. You don't want it to be too straight. That's pretty good like that. And actually, maybe I'll put a little bit more of this across here in a few places. That's sort of what it is I'm going for. Look at what's already happened to that sky. That's turned out pretty good. All right, I'm going to switch brushes again back to the big 3/4 inch brush, and I'm going to rinse it out, and I'm going to pick up some of this yellow ochre that I have here, and we're going to put in the background back here, we're going to put in a little bit of a tree line, sort of like that, and maybe a little bit up across here like that, and put a little bit of this yellow ochre across here too. I'm actually going to pick up a whole bunch of this yellow ochre and put it in pretty intensely across there. That's sort of what it is that I'm going for across there. We need to just let this bleed to wherever it is it's going to bleed to, and don't worry about it too much, okay? All right, that's all turned out pretty good. Now, I'm going to rinse my brush out pretty well, and I'm going to pick up some sienna, okay? I don't need a lot of sienna here, but we want to add some sienna into some of these places just to give it a little punch of color, okay? Just like that, and maybe up here too. And again, watch the motion. The motion is I'm tapping the brush onto the page, okay? So I'm not, there's no brush strokes in there. It's just tapping the brush onto the page. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more sienna that's fairly intense. I'm going to put it across there like that, and we're going to do a little bit of scribing here. So this is my #1 round watercolor brush, but I've sharpened one end of it with a utility knife, and so I'm going to put some scribe marks into some of this, and I'm going to put some scribe marks here too, just to create some effect of some undergrowth or some brush. Okay, just like that. And not too much more than that. Just let it bleed off to, you know, wherever it is it wants to bleed off to. You know, scribe lines really add a lot of definition to your work. Okay, so we need to put in some tops for these trees, and we're going to do that with Payne's gray. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the 1/4 inch brush, and I'm going to pick up quite a bit of just a very light wash here, and I'm just going to touch this across here like this, trying to create some. These trees have very few branches that are low down, and most of the branches are sort of right near the top. And you can see I'm trying to create like a pointy kind of a effect with this wash. So that's why I wanted to use a smaller brush, so I could kind of get a point to some of these trees. Okay, that's turned out pretty good. Okay, and I got this little guy right here. And again, I'm tapping the brush onto the page. There's very few brush strokes in there. Now I'm going to take this brush. I'm not going to rinse it out. I'm going to touch it onto my Payne's gray. Okay, just touch it onto the Payne's gray. And then I'm going to go back to these wet areas. And I'm just going to touch a few of them with this more intense Payne's gray. Pick up a little bit more here. Okay, and we're just going to let that bleed off to wherever it is it wants to bleed off to. I'm going to take some more of this fairly intense Payne's gray and put it across the bottom here where this water line would be. And I'm going to take a little bit more Payne's gray and put it into a few of those areas. And maybe a little bit more here. And I'm going to scribe out of a few of these too. Just like that. That's turned out not too bad. Okay, I'm going to just drop some salt on this. I got my little bag of salt here. You just need a few grains of salt. We're not looking for, this is just to add a little bit of drama wherever it is that you think, you know, you might need a little bit of drama in your painting. Drop a little bit of salt in it. And again, I want you to just think of your painting as an experiment, and let's let this dry and see what happens to it. All right, so I think there's a lot of cool things that happened to this. I mean, these trees turned out good. I mean, it's the layering, you know, it's all the different layering that we did to it, the rocks, the different layering, you know, going back and visiting it 2 or 3 times. The salt has done some really cool stuff for us. The shoreline looks really good, and the reflection of the sky in that water, making it that color, that's really well too. All right, so, but I think we can make this a little bit better. I think a couple of things. One is, I think we could use some green in this. So I'm going to take my small brush and I'm going to pick up some sap green. I'm going to put some sap green into a few places along here, like a few places along the, you know, along the shoreline here. And I'm just going to tap the brush into this. You know, I don't need a lot of green in here. And I'm going to put a little bit of green up in here in a few places. You could even put some green on the rocks if you want to. In a few places, put a little bit of green across here. I think that's going to be good. And again, just tapping the brush onto the page. And the other thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to rinse that brush off. I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue wash. And I'm just going to touch a few of these places with some blue, like that. Sort of like that. And you see how that blue has turned that green. It's changed that green almost instantly as soon as you touch it. And you see how that little dash of color in there has really done some important work for us. I'm going to put a couple of scribe marks into some of this. I'm not going to add any more salt or anything to this. Just like that. All right, let's let this dry and see what happens. I think actually before I let this dry, I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to put a little bit of this green in these trees. And I'm only going to put a little bit of this green in these trees. Like that. All right, that's pretty interesting. Let's let this dry. Okay, let's check this out. Look at what happened with adding that little bit of green and that little bit of blue into the green, and then the green into some of these branches on the tree. And see how many layers we have on there now? That's really looking nice. And then this blue across the front here. What happens when we put our mat on it? So put our mat on there. That's pretty interesting. I really like the sky, and the water turned out fabulous. The rocks turned out really good. Those trees, all the little foreground. Yeah, I like it. I'd like to know what you think of it in the comment section. If you could drop me a line and let me know what you think of it. I'd also love to know where you're from. If you could leave me a comment in the comment section, let me know where you're from. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, if you're currently a subscriber, thanks a lot for watching. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot. See you again next time.